Zotolo.
Welcome to that show about movies, Cinema Night Pod. We've been doing this for a while, and we hope that you've been along for most of the ride. If you're new to the show, that's even better. We welcome newcomers, Michael Govier, Eric Brandstrom, Travis Roy, all veterans of the Heartland High School Public Schools and the general Heartland Consolidated School District as a whole. That has nothing to do with the show, but it did bring us together. Odds are we probably wouldn't be doing the show today if we didn't meet each other way back when. Am I wrong?
Pete Caraselli, we salute you. Thanks for
You make a strong point. You make a strong point. If we didn't know each other, we probably wouldn't be doing this show. That's a good point.
Pete Caraselli is really funny. Yeah, boy. That guy looked like he was in the mafia or something, man. He was slick. Biz, something was going on. I bet he stole some money. Yeah, I bet he skimmed a little bit. I'll throw it out there. Why not? So wild accusations out of Thursday.
Baseless accusations about our former superintendent, which for some reason in our school, like he was like a rock star. Everybody fucking loved our superintendent. Like he was the coolest guy. Who knew their superintendent in high school and thought he was connected?
Hey, dude. Heartland Pizza was a total sham. Like the bag of Heartland Pizza, that's where everything happened. That's where all the deals went down for Heartland. The municipalities, the water.
I never saw any of that, though. I did, the Chofu brothers. They are Italian, and they are intense dudes. 4 brothers own that restaurant. Come on. Anyways, nobody cares about this. This is the Cinema Night Pod. Today we're going to talk about The Fifth Element, Travis's selection. Does it hold up? I want you guys to take a moment and consider following the BoobTube Boys. The BoobTube Boys is a new podcast from my friend Van Lee. He was on my Palazzo podcast yesterday. He's a really great guy. It's a new show where they examine, kind of like what we do, except they're doing TV shows. So it's called the BoobTube Boys. You can look it up and find it anywhere podcasts are available. And they do like an episode from one show, and they kind of make fun of it and crack some jokes like we do, but they always say, did this episode hold up or not? So they're kind of kindred spirits to us. I'd like to recommend it.
Well, it's very interesting to me that you'd be recommending a podcast, someone else's podcast, being that you have like 30 of your own and hardly ever mention them on this show. So that's an interesting move.
And that's a testament to what a great guy Van is. I really like him. I think
it's a testament of what a great guy you are, sir.
Well, I think Van would fit right in here. In fact, he loves movies himself. Maybe someday he'll be on this pod.
Maybe a future host, or guest host.
They did an episode on Walker, Texas Ranger recently, and Hercules, the fucking Kevin Sorbo. Yeah. Remember that?
Legend continues. It's a classic.
Yeah, that's some fucked up shit. But anyways, yeah, check that out. So that'll be fun. And yeah, I do stuff too. But this is about us, Travis Roy. It's a beautiful Thursday. It's hotter than fuck. And I'm sure you got the AC rolling at very minimum in Hazel Park.
Absolutely. I have the AC going. Friends of the show that have been listening to us for some time know that I'm a bit of a stickler for name pronunciation, and I would like to give a kudo, or at least many kudos, to Michael last episode for saying Rick Dukaman. Me and Eric have been saying Rick Dukaman for like fucking 41 years of our life.
Rick Dukaman.
The man's name is pronounced Rick Dukaman. But I got to take one kudo away because Neighbors was not the movie with the Seth Rogen movie was not based off of the Jim Belushi movie. That's not a remake, just for the record.
The John Belushi movie. They never made it. That's what happened, right?
No, they did make that John Belushi movie. I'm pretty sure.
They're
not connected. They're just both called Neighbors. They're both called Neighbors. That's it. There's no remake there. It's just they're both called Neighbors.
It's a reimagining.
I spiritual cousin.
It's about 2 neighbors. Yeah,
I mean, it's a movie about neighbors, but yeah, you can. I fact checked you. Fact check me back. You're welcome to do that. I'm just telling you, I don't think there's any real connection there. But I would love to be proven wrong because I stand by being proven wrong on a regular basis. It happens to me all the time.
Well, that's
top 5 Neighbors movies.
Burbs, of course.
The Burbs, Neighbors.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
Moving? Does that count?
Moving?
Oh boy,
House
that's
Party?
interesting. All right, I'm gonna look. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't know everything, and usually it was half something I heard once upon a time. But anyways, Eric, you're live in Griffith, Indiana. Summertime's here, buddy. Are you off work? Is it party time?
Dude, I've got the whole summer off, and I've never had more energy in my entire life after I started this keto diet.
Hey!
And you're flu-free.
Yeah, he's flu-free too. Coincidence? I don't know.
I don't have the flu. I'm bouncing off the walls. I'm not sluggish. I'm not it's fucking fantastic, man. I don't know what to tell you, but it's working for me.
Well, very glad to hear that. You texted me about that a couple weeks ago, and some people have had great success with that. So it's not awful either. You can still eat some delicious stuff.
I don't crave any bread or any carbohydrates or anything. My energy's up. I'm feeling great.
Well, nobody believes that, but I believe the second part. Yeah, but nobody believes you're not craving breads because that's what we do in this country, right, Travis?
I like cheese a lot also.
Yeah, that's an important part. Bread and cheese are one of the hallmarks of the ultimate food combos. It's a simple formula that's worked for decades. But no, I don't want to bring you down, Eric. I don't want to bring you down. All right, I'm sorry. We're lost. I'm lost, but you're on the right track. So good for you! Yay!
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Bread and cheese.
Bread and Cheese the movie.
We already did that.
We already covered that.
Grilled Cheese the movie episode, I don't know, 12 or something.
Long time ago. Deep in the archives if you want to go back. By the way, all of our episodes are available on our podcast feeds, and I don't know when we actually started streaming our first episode on YouTube, but a lot of them are on YouTube. I don't know exactly when that started, though. But we would love a 5-star rating if you feel like we deserve it. That always helps the show. And, we're trying to grow. We're trying to learn about how stuff works, and maybe we could expand our brand and get to know more people and learn about more movies. There's still so much to learn. Am I wrong?
You got a great point there. How are you, Michael? Is your fear of death subsiding? How's life?
Actually, I haven't had much death thoughts in the last week or two, so I think I finally figured it out. I think I mastered it.
You can cross that off the list.
Done.
Fear of death off the list. Self-actualization next.
Oh wow, dude, that's a tall order, but I'm down for it. Let's let it ride. Let it ride. One day it will probably be a movie that will decide whether it holds up or not on this show. I'm sure.
I already know it does.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, then we don't have to worry about it.
That's why I haven't.
But I actually, I'm going back to work next week apparently.
Oh, no shit.
That's it's a big news. It's like a part-time thing. Same employer I used to have with the valet dude. So we'll see how that goes.
Excitement.
And I do need money. That does matter.
That's exciting.
Otherwise, that's pretty much it here. We're just kind of, doing the same old shit here. I'm fully vaxxed. That's true. Like I said, I played softball and lived for the first time on Sunday. And I've actually been thinking about, like Travis did, it's time for me to go to the theater. Eric, have you gone to the theater yet?
He's shaking his head no to those that aren't watching at home.
No.
Yeah,
I've been very happy with a lot of the movies that I've been wanting to see hitting home platforms. We got The Conjuring 3 currently on HBO Max waiting for me. I'm going to tuck in tonight. Pretty much everything Godzilla vs. Kong, everything I've been wanting to see has been available on the home front, and I've been happy with it. That's how cool. Anxious I get at theaters. So
that's true. You've never been a huge theater guy. Kong vs. Godzilla for me was like one of the most ultimate theatrical experiences of my life. But that makes sense for you. That's for sure. What are you going to see, Mike? Do you have any thoughts? I've been looking, but there really hasn't been much in theaters I want to see. Really just nobody, which has been in theaters forever. I'm like, that's going to be streaming any day now, I'm sure.
That's the thing. There's nothing that's like getting me to go there yet. So when something comes out that's, maybe I'll watch that stupid movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds coming out in August.
I'll go with you.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that'll be the big return. That'd be fun.
Well,
I was just thinking. I'm sure you will. I was thinking, me and Eric, we had a great time. Me and Eric, we've been to the theater many times together. I didn't know you were so nervous, though. I remember our Inglourious Bastards viewing, which was like the day before my birthday in 2009, and then we
celebrated that beautiful film with a boot at the Heidelberg afterward. Who could forget?
Yeah, those are good times. I didn't know that it was such a. And me and Travis, of course, all three of us, we've been to the movie theaters many times together over the years. There's the classic Frost Nixon viewing, Inception. Me and Travis, I got stoned for that one. That was fun. Damn. Rare stone viewing for me. I don't really do that.
That's a good one to get stoned for.
It was. I remember picking you up at your apartment over in Ipsy, and we got stoned and we went and saw it. And...
Whoa! Back up. I got you stoned.
Yeah,
I don't do that.
Well, not you. No, not you. I chose of my own free will to get stoned. That's what it was. Yeah.
So Travis, you have been to the theater in the past few months.
Twice. Two big events.
I'm hearing rumors that the prices have skyrocketed to cover this and that.
Nope.
Is that just bogus?
Nope, they were the same. They were the same prices. They were the same prices. And speaking of the theater, shout out to friends of the show and listeners of the show, Laskowski and Chad Gibbon, who has been a previous guest host. They went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark this weekend in theaters. They they invited me, but it was pretty late notice. But that's
Wow.
one of the things I've been meaning to do. That since theaters are opening up, they're showing all these older movies and stuff. I'm like, I should probably try and catch those, but so far there hasn't been anything really that's lined up for me.
The text thread got a few laughs for me from that event. So Eric's trying to have a lovely Saturday, and I'm saying that's played out. So that was funny to me. But
Yeah.
Classic.
But those guys were the demographic of that movie. That's what made me laugh the most. Yes, those two seeing that movie were born
40-year-old
for that.
bearded nerds in the theater, full price, whatever it takes.
It was $5, they said. So they're all right.
What? Oh, wow. So it's even cheaper. That's cool. That's the way it should be. That's good to know that exists. Well, you know what? We have no emails this week. You guys finally listened to us, and you finally got the message. So
Thank
thanks
you
for that.
so much. God, thank God.
I know. But Travis Roy, why don't you take us into quarantine viewing picks for June 10th, 2021?
Oh man, you guys, I actually watched nothing but good movies this week. It was like a no-hitter. I had a lot of good luck with this week with movies. I kicked off the week with the documentary suggested by co-host Eric Brandstrom, In Search of Darkness on Shudder. Definitely watch the second one. I watched the first one from 2019. I was thinking, I'm pretty caught up in my 80s film lore. I'll probably have, the cult classics. I probably will have seen most of them, then I'll get some more recommendations. And there was plenty that I had not seen. I thought that I had a pretty good chunk under my belt, but I walked out with quite a few to watch. So I watched Psycho.
Shopping Mall.
I grew up on Chopping Mall. There was no problem with that one. Yeah, I grew up on Chopping Mall. But I watched Psycho 2 from 1983, which I'd never watched before, written by Tom Holland, the writer-director of Fright Night. It was fucking awesome.
It's one of the most underrated sequels of all time.
It was awesome. Really interesting camera moves and interesting what's going on kind of story. Like you think you're going to it's going to all be super obvious, but it really wasn't. It was really, really good. So I enjoyed that. And another one that was that I picked up from that documentary was The Lair of the White Worm. Have you guys ever heard of this movie?
No.
Yeah. Ken Russell film.
Yeah, really
boy.
early Hugh Grant and Peter Capaldi, right? Isn't that his name? Capaldi. Peter Capaldi. Like both of them, like 30 years old at the time, and it was so good, man. It was so funny and actually scared me once or twice, but mostly it was just really fucking funny and weird and really sexual, but not in a way that was cringe. Well, kind of cringy. But The Lair of the White Worm is streaming on like a million platforms, and it's quite good. I gotta say, I enjoyed it. On your guys' recommendation, I checked out Bernie from 2011.
Yay!
Yes.
It was fantastic. Good recommendation. Thank you. I kept waiting for Cher to show up. Did you guys tell me Cher was in this movie, or am I crazy?
No, that got mixed in with Stuck on You.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm like watching it. I'm like, there's Shirley MacLaine.
We're fucking Cher.
I kept on like, wait. I'm like Cher. I like Cher a lot. Never showed up. But other than that, it was great. It was a really good movie. And I'm a big Jim Mickle fan. Cold in July and a few other films. The only thing of his I had not seen was Stakeland, because it came out right after Zombieland. It looks like Zombieland with vampires, and I was like, fuck, I'm not going to watch this. 11 years go by, and finally, like, all right, it's the only Jim Mickle movie I haven't watched. I've liked every Jim Mickle movie I've watched. I should watch this. It's awesome. Some horror movies will start off and be like, we're going to kill the family dog to let you know there's stakes, but there's not really any real stakes. This movie's like, yeah, we're going to kill a baby in the first 5 minutes. And this is the kind of movie you're in for. Not too big of a spoiler, but I mean, like, it's not grisly, but it is a baby dying. So, be prepared for that. But it was a really it was way dark, obviously. It did not have the comedy chops of like Zombieland at all. It was a pretty hardcore, awesome post-apocalyptic, supernatural film. I would definitely recommend. I watched Rolling Thunder from 1977. You guys ever seen this movie? Are you familiar with William Devane? You guys know this name?
Yeah.
Like, I'd seen him a million fucking times, but like I didn't know his name until now. And now I'm not going to forget it. This is the movie that Paul Schrader wrote after Taxi Driver. This is the first thing he did after Taxi Driver. And there's
Paul who?
Schaefer, Schrader, Paul, some guy that starts with an S. I always get them two names confused, even though I'm a big fan of one of them and not the other. Paul Schrader. I said Schrader the first time.
You got it right. He's just making a joke
we all fucked up. I thought I blew it.
Sorry. No, you had it. It's a Paul Schrader podcast, remember?
All right. Yeah. Okay. I thought I blew it. All right. So Paul Schrader, I was right. Totally. If you like Paul Schrader, Rolling Thunder, it makes sense to watch this movie. You got a real young Tommy Lee Jones in there too, but mostly William Devane is a true badass. That was pretty cool. I watched Raya and the Last Dragon, the most recent Disney film, which was Chef's Kiss. It's fucking great.
Yeah, it's free. Well, not free, but it's not exclusive on Disney Plus. You can just watch it on Disney Plus now, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah,
is a Song of the South on Disney Plus?
I don't think they put that one up yet, but they probably will.
Canceled. No, Michael, come on.
That's not happening.
Uncle Rebus is canceled.
Sorry, I knew that. Bad. Yeah, that's not happening.
They might someday. I actually hope that they do.
You think so? I don't think they will, but
well, I mean, with the disclaimer at the beginning, I would not be surprised if they did. Yeah. I mean, for historical purposes, I think it should be available to people. Myself.
I mean, they own everything. What are they going to do? Go out of business?
Exactly. Right. Everyone's aware of it. It's not like a secret. I watched Terminator Dark Fate. Holy shit, you guys. It was fucking awesome.
I liked it.
It was good.
It was really good.
I talked about it on the show.
I know. I remember.
I don't get the hate.
Yeah, you talked about it on the show. You guys, there are 3 Terminator movies. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and this one. Just cut the rest out. The rest are crap. This was pretty fucking good. Diego Luna was scary as the new Predator, as the new Terminator, excuse me. And dude, when Linda Hamilton appeared properly in the film, like in her, because it kind of like she blips in and out and then she really shows up, I fucking cheered like she was Steve Rogers in Infinity War. I was so stoked. I was really I was surprised at my reaction upon seeing her like blow in. So I'd strongly recommend it. Yeah, it was good.
It's kind of coincidental, Travis, because with Terminator Dark Fate and the T-800 and Psycho 2, you actually watch 2 horror movies about rehabilitated killers, and I think they're both interesting in ways that coalesce with the fact that your history doesn't define you, even if you're this horrible mass murderer.
Well, speaking of rehabilitation, my last film that I'll recommend, and I'm going to strongly recommend this movie. Maybe this is one of the stronger recommendations I think I've ever made on this show. I firmly urge. For 9 fucking years since 2012, I've heard bits and pieces of people being like, "This is a good movie. Seriously, you should watch this movie." Maybe you guys have seen it. I watched Dread from 2012.
Oh, dude, so did I. That's so weird. I was gonna talk about that today. That is weird.
I fucking loved it, dude.
So did I.
Alex Garland script.
That's so weird.
Travis directed. It was fucking great.
It was an absolute testament to everything that was wrong about the first one. With
I never even watched that.
Yeah,
shit.
I didn't either, but I've heard about it obviously, and people were. This is fucking Carl Urban. It's fucking awesome.
This is
fucking
one of the,
Lena Headey.
Lena
Queen
Headey.
Cersei.
Yeah, she's outstanding villain. But the action in this movie is so good.
It doesn't fuck around. It's a violent film.
Oh my god, so violent, and it starts and does not relent. Like it just fucking starts, and then you are in this movie or in this world. I blew it by not watching it 9 years ago. I mean, it's fucking awesome.
I heard so much about it. I finally wanted to go back and see it. So that's funny that we both watched it finally.
I think I talked about it over the last summer, but I loved it as well. It reminds me of early John Carpenter, like Assault on Precinct 13 and Escape from New York. It just cuts right to the chase, lean, fucking awesome, like hard.
Yeah, I would be very happy with a sequel, which was probably not coming at this point. But I can see why people are still talking about this movie, being like, "You guys," and finally, I fucking relented and watched it. Yeah, between that and Terminator Dark Fate, I really fucking blew it. I should have seen both these movies in theaters.
Wow, that's so funny. You started to say, "I wish I'd seen this movie." 2012. I'm like, is he going to say Dread? And he did. He said Dread. That was fun. Yeah, I'm just going to jump in on it now because you mentioned it real quick. But yes,
go ahead. I'm done.
Great movie that is in and out too. It's only like an hour and 35 minutes.
Lean,
amazing.
Never takes off the mask. Is like just like a straight comic book.
That was a stipulation. He's like when he took the role, he's still like never been a huge guy especially in 2012. But he was like, no, I'm not like. One thing, I'm not taking the mask off, because he's a fan.
That's the way it should be done. I mean, he was in the middle of the Star Trek franchise, so his star was rising. That's impressive that he said that too. So good for him. It's great. It's a great movie. It's violent as hell. It's not for the kiddies, in my opinion. It's an adult, violent, action-packed thriller. Bing, bang, boom. Get in, get out. Definitely go see it. Or
And
look it
brilliant
up, whatever it is.
satire, like layers and layers of satire.
That's true too. Yeah. It's a futuristic. If you
Yeah.
know, if you know the Dredd, if you don't even know the Dredd shit, you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't matter. You just go in there and you understand the stakes, the situation, and it's intense.
Yeah. So those are the movies I watched. I watched 10 fucking really good movies this week, and I'm going to make Dredd my top recommendation. So get out there and watch some movies, people.
Did you watch Loki?
Yes, I watched the first episode of Loki, and it was easily the best first episode out of the 3 Marvel shows so far.
Oh, okay. Well, that's promising.
It was a strong first episode.
Yeah, I watched it, and I could not avoid all the talk, so I checked in. I dug it, man. Like they might be pulling me back in, because as much as I complained about, I think the superhero stuff for me was just, it was origin story. And with these shows, they're just like, it seems like they are doing an about face, and they understand that it's going to get tired unless you try to reinvent it and do some like weird, if not fantastical things. And this is like,
oh yeah,
Terry Gilliam meets Charlie Kaufman. It's interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with this series.
Yeah, they're going full they're getting really into full comic book mode now. They're like, all right, people can handle alternate realities and shit. Like we're gonna start throwing the weird shit at them now.
The cosmic shit. You got to prep for that multiverse.
By the way, real quick on that point, Eric, Dredd, it's not an origin story either. You don't have to deal with that. It just gets right into it. I wanted to make that point. That's a good point.
Yeah. Just jump right in. Cobra reminds me of too. Fucking love Cobra.
I could see that.
The new world out there, pig.
So Cobra's fucking so awesome. It was a little light for me this week. The big standout for me, I'll go through a few of them. I checked in with Black Dog. You know, we were talking about Swayze for these last few weeks.
How'd it hold up?
It popped in, and I pushed play. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here.
Pushed play.
1999, Patrick Swayze. He's a former truck driver fresh out of prison. He takes on one last load to make ends meet, even though he doesn't even have a driver's license. He accepts the job and has to get back into the seedy world
like
of
Fifth
truck
Element
drivers. It's like, I mean, hey, it is what it is. I sat there and watched the goddamn thing, and then before I knew it, an hour and a half went by, and I was like, all right, I just watched Black Dog
with me.
But I mean, God bless Patrick Swayze. And after watching that, in the late 90s, you could he was looking a little weary. So I think they got him right at a good moment. I think he was a little bit on his way out. I hate to say, but it was fun. Watching Meatloaf have a scene with Randy Travis, and they're both trying to act, and it's just not working. It's worth the price of admission alone. I was hearing a lot about this horror film Bloodline. Which is a serious, dark serial killer film starring Sean William Scott. So I checked in with it
Stifler.
on Stars. Stifler himself, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's good in the role. He's actually quite good with what he's given. It's a very heavily cliched and obvious picture, but if you're inclined to take a look, he's someone that actually should get more dramatic roles, because he's actually quite good in it. It's just your typical his family doesn't know he's killing people at night and then coming home and then climbing back into bed and saying hey, I love you, hon, that whole deal for an hour and a half. So I'm glad I watched it. Like I said, it was light after Loki and more pro wrestling documentaries. I checked in with Stop Making Sense. Okay, so
for the first time, right?
I've never seen this my whole entire life, and you guys were talking about it. I'm like, okay, great. I'm a Talking Heads fan. What do we got? They film a concert. I watched it twice the same day, while cleaning my house. I don't know how to explain what Jonathan Demme was able to do. I've never seen a concert film just capture the frenetic just energy and pulsivity. That's probably not a word of being at a live show. It's just. I loved it so much, and I watched American Utopia. I wish I would have watched that first, because it was a little too self-aware for me or something. I don't know what it was about. It was too Broadway or something. But I dug it. But I'm telling you, Stop Making Sense is so fucking. It just wanted me. It made me want to either see a show or get on Craigslist and be anyone who want to start a band. It's so inspirational as an artist.
it's a classic film, like The Last Waltz. I mean, there's only so many like concert performance movies that like this is a classic film. And Stop Making Sense I mean, it's like an American classic.
Yeah, even if you don't really like the talking, I mean, there's only so much talking, like so much weirdness you can handle, but like what's the perfect length? Yeah, like I watched American Utopia like right after. I'm like, okay, we get it. You're weird, but I love it.
He's eccentric, Eric.
Very eccentric.
I love you. I loved American Utopia as
he
much
went to RISD, okay? Yeah, that's where they met. Some of the Talking Heads actually met there, I believe.
Art school was where they met, right? Is that RISD?
Yeah, RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, where Seth MacFarlane went.
I mean, I cannot. Everyone's seen it but me, but like I cannot praise it highly enough. It was an experience, and then we're talking just about like a camera pointed at a concert, but it was over 3 nights, and Jonathan Demme he fucking nailed it. I mean, I don't know how we don't have more movies that are at least just aping off what he tried to do, but just no one's really been able to capture that energy of a performance like that film. Loved it so much.
Yeah, it seems like there's an opportunity for a lot of great concert films that we just don't have. Now that I'm thinking about it a bit. Like I know there's a lot out there, but
I was thinking, is that they take like the best moments of this, essentially the same show over 3 nights at the Hollywood Palladium, and nowadays they just like, is it one show and like they just, because they never show the crowd.
No, there's a lot of multi-night, like there's a lot of like residences. It depends where it's at, but yeah,
that happens a lot with stand-up comedy even too. I mean, like it's not uncommon.
It's less common with music. Yeah, I would agree, but
piece it
what
together.
About you, Mike?
Yeah, what you been watching, bud?
Well, I'm glad you watched it finally, Eric. I think that's an important moment. This is a milestone marker in the show. We should all stop and have a moment of silence.
Oh. When I first moved here, I blew Mr. Belvedere.
Oh, shit.
Okay, we had it. Great. I pressed the wrong button. That was Seth Rogen from Funny People, though. Sorry.
When I first moved here, I blew Mr. Belvedere.
It happens. So, multipass. Look at this. We got a great comment. Multipass. We all love saying multipass. Definitely should have a multipass drop. That's my fault. So, I'm a little short. But anyways, movie-wise, I watched Dredd, so we covered that. Woohoo! What a great film. Dredd. Carl Urban's a badass. I watched, I forgot to mention this, so a couple weeks back, I did a double header of boys titled movies, Boys on the Side, and Riding in Cars with Boys. I did both.
Oh my God. Mike, you're
They're both starring Drew Barrymore. They're both starring Drew Barrymore, which is weird, right?
Why? Did you cap off the Boys trilogy with Boys Don't Cry?
No, shit. Yeah, that's a good point. For some reason I didn't think of that, but
Boys in the Hood? I mean,
yeah, well, I've seen that so many times. That's true. That would have been a natural one to fit in there.
Yeah, keep it going, man.
Wonder Boys?
Oh, we've done, which we did a long time ago. Episode 3?
2 or 3, yeah, one of our first episodes.
Way back when. It's available, though. You can listen to it. We'll sound different. If you listen to the pod today and you go back, like Travis has said, we have progressed to a certain point where we've matured and tried a little bit more of a organizational structure, which I like. I like the way we do the show, but it's fun to see the development of a show. I think it's good times. Oh yeah. True. And of course, Bad Boys. Good call, Anthony. Yeah, I wasn't thinking. Obvious
so what did you think? I mean, I've got a copy of Riding Cars with Boys in my DVD collection down here. Are you a fan?
They thought it was going to be much more than it ended up being because it's based on a memoir by this woman. She has a kid at a young age in the 60s, and she ends up writing about it. And one of the things that's really hard to buy is Drew Barrymore's like jumping 20 plus years, 25 years in age, and she just has black hair instead of her blonde hair. Dumb, real dumb. And she has a son that's like 23. Like, come on, guys. And dude, Steve Zahn's in it. Steve Zahn's like fucked up heroin addict. Like, it's a weird Steve Zahn role, or a different Steve Zahn's role in the least, but it just doesn't take. It seems like they were really trying to make it a serious, like, this is big deal. This could be like, worthy of awards and shit. It just doesn't work.
We really have to do like worse like aging gaps in movies, like where they're clearly still just like 25 and they're trying to be old.
Yeah, that's a great call, dude. I'll write that down.
Yeah. Because Anne Hathaway in Brokeback Mountain, just like as good as she's acting, like, but nothing. No, we already did it. We've already discussed it. It was Rachel Griffiths in fucking Blow. That was the worst.
Oh shit.
Just had a shitty kind of like Boston accent, and you think it ages you somehow.
No makeup, no nothing.
That was it. You're right. That's the Hall of Fame.
That's the
By the
worst.
way, we're going to talk Fifth Element, but you brought it up. I got to say it now. Was that Rachel Griffiths as Corbin's mom? I swear. I was like, that sounds like her playing the Boston accent from Blow. I really thought that.
A little bit. I mean, like, I think that was before she was really getting started. Well, actually, no, I take that back. She'd been in Cosi, I think, by that point or whatever that was. Yeah, no, I think she was. She was active. Yeah, she was.
She was.
Do Corbin? My neighbors can see us. They know.
I mean,
you know you're a drug dealer?
is that just the fucking like weirdest and worst C plot ever? Like, there's just no purpose. Just letting you know, hey, Corbin has a toxic background. His mother deeply wounded him psychically. He was raised by fucking what's her name? Marchand. Shit, I'm blanking. So from The Sopranos, Tony's mother.
Oh, Nancy Marchand.
Nancy Marchand, yeah.
Oh,
basically her, right?
Yeah.
Same one.
Fucking borderline personality city.
Oh boy, and then Boys on the Side, which features Matthew McConaughey again, early Matthew McConaughey work. He plays the cop husband of Drew Barrymore. Boys on the Side.
This is why you watched it.
This was the first reason to get into it. You got me there, but then I went to Riding with Cars with Boys because of the fuck of it. The bottom line is, Boys on the Side, 1995. Pretty damn good movie, actually. I really enjoyed it. Whoopi Goldberg and Mary Louise Parker and Drew Barrymore, and like a road trip, but it's not a comedy. There's jokes and stuff, but it's a road experience film, and they're a good trio together. So I would recommend that one, but not Riding Cars with Boys. Sorry, Eric.
I would watch Mary Louise Parker do laundry for 8 hours. We don't see enough of her. I love her so much.
Wow,
you can have her.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. You're offering. I will take her.
If I get a hold of her, I'll let her know you're ready to go. So
okay,
I think she's busy with her own life.
Continuing on the McConaughey adventure, I never saw this movie. It got torn to shit. I remember coming out like people tore it to hell, but I finally saw it. Sahara. What a terrible film this is.
Famously terrible, like Ishtar level.
I think initially I'm like, well, this ain't so bad. You got Bill Macy, Steve Zahn, Matthew McConaughey, Penelope Cruz.
So
right.
That's the thing. Like, this Clive Cussler book was all the cat's meow. So like, what the fuck happened with the movie? And is the book even good? What is this Sahara bullshit? Who the fuck is Clive Cussler?
That's a great episode title. I got to tell you though, McConaughey's like this impenetrable badass. Like, he can smile and kick everyone's ass all the time, and nothing ever phases him. It's just so ridiculously absurd. It's too bad Bill Macy plays an admiral in this. Kind of a stretch. I don't really see Bill Macy as an admiral, a Navy elite admiral. He tries to grow a beard and pull it off. It's like,
that's not very Navy.
And then Delroy Lindo shows up too. You're like, wow, all these people are in this.
Just any admiral. It doesn't even matter the personality. You can't be an admiral. Come on. You wouldn't advance in the Navy. Give me a break here. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I knocked off a lot I'd never seen before. All of these. I saw the New Mutants. Travis talked about it.
Oh,
thought it was so-so. Thought it was. It's there, but like
worth seeing. But I mean, I'm not going to watch it over and over again. But I thought it was worth seeing.
Yes, it was worth seeing, but that's about it. I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I didn't see it. But I finally watched it because we talked about Miguel Arteta when we did The Good Girl.
Flan de Coco.
Sorry, Flan de
Coco.
Coco. Alter ego, Flan de Coco. Flan de Coco's Beatrice at Dinner, starring Selma Hayek and John Lithgow. And Connie, what's her face? Shit.
Nielsen?
No, not Nielsen. The other one. She was in Nashville, a TV show.
The only one I know.
You would know her face. Anyways, this is an interesting film, a curious film. Chloe Sevigny's in this as well, and Salma Hayek gives a great performance, and her and John Lithgow going head-to-head in this movie is definitely worth seeing, and it's not what you think it might be necessarily. So I'm going to recommend Beatrice with a Z at the Dinner. Very intriguing movie. I don't want to say much else because it's a pretty quick film. It's like it gets in and gets out, and that's about it. And I watched more trash, blah, blah, blah. Talking about the movie. I've seen that. I watched Gravity for the first time, and I thought it wasn't that great, to be honest with you, man. Maybe I should have seen this in the theater. I missed an experience. But
dude, for me, like, the whole movie is like how would I used to describe it? Like, if you're like in line at Epcot Center, it's like in the background, like while you're in like the third like ring of rows you have to wait in, like it's playing, like gearing you up for like the roller coaster you're about to ride. I don't understand why it's such a huge deal.
Well, look, I mean, again, back to our earlier point about like cinematic films being better in movies. I saw this one in IMAX, and I was like, when it first came out, I saw it in IMAX. This is fucking masterpiece. When they're, when she touches Earth, I'm like, this is amazing. Alfonso Cuarón is a fucking genius. This is amazing. And I watched it as soon as it came out on whatever. I watched it at home on like the little rinky-dink 12-inch TV I had at the time, and went, oh, it's just a big screen. It was just a really big screen that made it good.
That's interesting, Travis, because like, is it like if you went back for a third time and then watched it back on IMAX, would you be like, this is the intended experience, so the film is amazing?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's an experience, but you do got to be pretty set up for it.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. Well done. Well said.
Sandra Bullock looks incredible, though, in the film.
Yeah, but it's also, even beyond the physical appearance of it, some of the dialogue is terrible, and like some of the things that are happening are repetitive. Yeah. It's beyond that, too. So I'm actually going to stick with how I felt about it. Obviously, it was an IMAX experience. I should have seen it there.
But it was so overhyped.
Bar. Yes.
So overhyped.
I agree with. I really think it was, and I'm not going to back down from that. I don't care what anybody says. I've got opinions, and
down.
Stand
your ground.
I will. I won't be turned around. I have never seen The Mask. I watched The Mask for the first time. I never saw it. I love Jim Carrey. I know.
Were you in a coma?
This is a big one, huh?
Yeah.
I'm hitting on one here.
This?
How?
I've seen the clips of him.
Hitting you? What happened?
His eyes popping out. I've seen the clips, but I've never sat down and watched.
You were busy watching some other fucking movie like Mars Attacks for the 500th time or something, right?
Or Ace Ventura, or
right.
Dumb and Dumber over and over again, because they all came out around the same time.
Yeah, I remember. That blows my mind. Well, here, how even was it? I have no idea how it would be to a grown man in the year 2021. How was it? What'd you think?
I gotta tell you, it fucking impressive. The special effects still hold up.
All right.
Like legit special effects on a goofy comedy. They're really good.
God,
they really are.
I mean, it was a summer blockbuster. It was a huge hit. We cannot overstate how big this movie was, and it was his first really big film, if I recall correctly.
It was
before
Ace
Ventura, I think.
It was right before
Ace. I think it came out in the summer before Dumb and Dumber, which came out
July '94. It was massive.
So it was
introduction to Cameron Diaz. Like my eyes have never been the same since I first laid eyes on her in theaters in '94. I can't. I'm in shock, Michael.
I know.
So it was Ace Ventura, then The Mask, then Dumb and Dumber.
And Dumb and Dumber in December, right. Yeah.
Right.
Amazing. It's a great film. It's funny. Jim Carrey at his best, also playing the the Stanley Ipkiss character. He does that well, but the effects are really good. And good old Redfoot's a bad guy. He's fun. I love Redfoot.
Peter Green. Once he gets the mask on, like
evil man
anymore.
Yeah. What the hell? Why does he have to have why does his voice change when he puts on the mask? Because he's got to represent evil?
Well,
I don't know. That's a minor issue.
They tell you it brings out your innermost fantasies and desires, and his was to corrupt and own capital.
Well, that makes sense. But why does his voice have changed? Jim Carrey's voice
because he's evil.
Yeah, evil.
Thank you. I know. Yeah, it's a mild, stupid point I should not be harping on. But anyways, I finally saw it, and I'm glad I did. It's a good time, and it holds up. It was a great ride. I really, really wish I'd seen it when I was younger. I saw Mr. Brooks. Never saw Mr. Brooks. And boy, this is a fascinating film. This is not what you think it is. If you've never seen it, I wish I'd seen it. I really, really wish I hadn't just blown off Kevin Costner because he's boring and annoying in a lot of films and he thinks too much of himself.
I did the same thing. Eric he basically had to force me to watch it like 5 years after it came out.
It's got a healthy cult status over the past, what is it? Was it 2007?
2007, yeah. Yep.
So what did you think? I know we joked around on text, but it's an interesting picture for sure.
It's a great movie. It's just a flat out great movie. It's never what you think it is necessarily. It doesn't give into certain tropes. And William Hurt and Kevin Costner, like I said, together, it's like a buddy. It's a buddy movie almost that you didn't think it would be. That is sick as fuck, but it's still. It still got me to feel for him in a weird way, which is really hard to do for a fucking killer.
It's so weird that you, not to detour or interrupt your segment, but for me watching this Bloodline movie, which is essentially the same exact thing, Family Man is a murder on the side with no originality. Mr. Brooks was doing that before Dexter, before any of these like serial killers with alter egos that you dissected and their family lives.
Yeah, they both started at the same time. I think Dexter was like the year after it first came out, I believe, or roughly.
Maybe. And Dane Cook. I mean, come on now.
There was a book, I think, before the TV show Dexter. There was a book.
Sharing. Dane Cook, he's serviceable in this role. He doesn't get too goofy, and he's serviceable. I'll give him credit for that. I will.
Those scenes between William Hurt and Kevin Costner were as the conscience. It's superb. Fucking superb.
And the first season of Dexter was 2006.
Oh.
There you go. Busted, Mr. Brooks. Now you're suck. You're worthless. I don't ever want to see anything. But yeah, that's man. What a great movie! I'm so glad I finally watched that. And I apologize. I do like Kevin Costner. I don't
when he's good. Him. When he's good, he's really good, right? But there's just so much crap, honestly. But when he's good, he's fucking great. Like when I watched Hidden Figures recently, I was like, shit, Kevin Costner's great.
Watch Never Let Go last year. He's fucking fantastic. Classic Costner in it. Yeah, really good.
I catch that.
When he lets his ego go, because the word is always out that he has to control so much and he wants to be so involved in everything. I don't think that's a secret. And it's probably very true. So when he can kind of just make it, do his part, I think he's really good. I watched Speed Racer. I never saw that stupid ass movie. Another movie that got ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
And it's not as bad as it was ripped to be. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, intriguing. The effects are really cool, but also overwhelming because they make it that way. They're trying to create that world. The Wachowski, formerly the Wachowski brothers at the time, now Lana and Lily, I think.
Yes.
A
visual feast, it looked like, right?
It is a visual feast, but the edits are terrible. You can never tell what's going on with the race. It's awful. It's worse than a fucking Marvel movie with the quick cuts and you cannot tell. You could just be quiet. Yes, I know, Travis. I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said, Eric? I watched Speed Racer. Yeah,
couldn't compare it to Transformers. Okay,
exactly. That's just I could have done the same thing. You're right, but fucking interesting enough. I think you should try it out. Otherwise, it's not as terrible as you might have heard, but it's actually not as good as it could have been.
It had to have been like a marketing nightmare because I when it came out, what was it year? Do you remember? Was it
the next year? 08.
Okay. I don't even know who the fuck Speed Racer is. I don't know if a lot of like 18 to 25 demographic that was probably prime for knew what was going on.
It was a 60s cartoon.
Yeah, that was
more love when it came on Cartoon Network in like the late 90s, mid 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was for us. I mean, I grew up watching Speed Racer, the TV show.
Yeah, a lot. That's what.
I wasn't interested in the movie though.
There you go.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the kid Spritle and that monkey, the chimpanzee, they're fucking annoying as fuck. That's a reason not to watch this movie, quite honestly. I will say that. But the villain is so diabolically good that it keeps you interested enough and enjoyable that you gotta.
Was that Matthew Fox?
No, Matthew Fox is in that movie, but he plays he's not the villain.
He's Racer X.
Yeah, he plays Racer X, who appears to possibly be a villain, but he's not. The guy who owns something Industries, what was it, Royalton Industries? He was in V for Vendetta. They cast him again. He was the guy who played the crazy guy on TV. Kind. Yeah, no, not Stephen Ray. It's always a good opportunity to get a Stephen Ray kill your own kind in weekend. The guy who's on TV screaming like he's the right-wing psycho, not the
John Hurt. Stephen. What's that fucking guy's name? I know who you're talking about.
I'm looking at the cast listing, and it's so
Stephen Fry.
No, that's the other guy. He's the fun talk show guy. I'm talking about the psycho right-wing guy at night who plays what's that guy's name? Damn it.
I do not know that guy's name.
Commander Prothero. That guy. Whoever plays that guy. He's great as the villain in this movie. And I'm sorry I don't know his name, and I apologize to him. I am the asshole here, and I hope you'll forgive me and we move forward amicably. But he makes this worth it. Roger Allam. I finally found it. Thank you. Roger Allam. What a great bad guy. Good for you, buddy. All right, so there you go. That'll a little dab will do you, and that was my experience at the movies this week. And movies are fun. You can always have we're okay. Oh, last one. Last one. Billy Lynn's halftime walk. Billy Lynn's halftime walk. I want you guys to. I thought it was pretty damn good, and in a period of time that has been shit on over and over again. The 2000s Iraq situation, the war, whatever. The people are disregarded from that war, the soldiers and such, and it's based in 2004. and it's the way it's created and done, and I thought it was definitely a pretty damn good movie and definitely hit me a little bit. Steve fucking Martin shows up in this movie in a wild role that I had no idea he was involved. He plays a serious role in this movie, so I'm gonna throw it out there.
It's an Ang Lee picture, and all I remember is like this weird frame rate for some reason that they were going for, and I was like, I'm out.
It was the first movie to do 120 or something, but I don't care about that. It was just I watched the movie. It looked like a movie to me on my boring ass TV.
Halftime walk. I'm like, it's not even about the game, which one interested me anyway. It's about the halftime show. Somebody walks out onto the field. Who cares?
A vet walks out on the field. Even I know that. I've never even seen it.
Yes, that's correct. But Garrett Hedlund is the star of this movie. He's fucking awesome. He plays like the guy who runs because it's a whole crew. It's not just Billy Lynn. It's their whole regiment goes to be celebrated at the football game. And Garrett Hedlund is a badass and a powerhouse in this film. So check it out. Don't get caught up in some of the bogus hype. So there you go. Try to rectify some wrongs of the past. Except Sahara, never to ever return. Well, we've covered all that. Cinema and I Podcast at protonmail.com. Give us 5-star rating on Apple Podcast and let us know what you think of our show. You can tell us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. These guys do great reviews of movies everywhere. So, with that said, let's do The Fifth Element. Multipass, 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 multipass.
Bang, bada, bang, boom.
Bada, boom, boom, bing. Bing, bada, boom, bing. Hey. That's the dumbest shit. All right, we'll get to that.
Hey, that's a divine language, man. Don't fuck with the divine language.
Oh, boy. Well, Travis picked The Fifth Element last week, a 1997 film directed by Luc Besson. And I got to tell you, we're going to talk about it in great detail. But Travis, why don't you lead us off, man? You chose this movie. Take us back in time. Spin us a yarn.
Oh, man. So this is one that I owned the VHS, I think, like pretty much as soon as it was like one of those ones that 97 was about when they started releasing and stuff for make it available for sale, like almost as soon as it was available on VHS at all. They figured out like, oh, we should stop, keeping movies from people. They actually want to give us money. We should let them take it. So this is one I bought like early on and watched the ever loving fuck out of and just like the other night last night when I watched it, I mean, I must have watched it 100 times. Every time I started, I'm like 1914 every time. Like it starts in 1914. Yeah, it was one that I couldn't have absorbed it more and then set it down, walked away, didn't think about it for nothing. And until we started doing this podcast, and like I said last week, it's been one that's been on my mind for a long time because I felt very strongly that as much as I loved it before, I could really see myself not feeling that way now, or thinking, "Wow, what a fucking ahead of its time kind of picture." So I was happy to sit down and watch it again. And I'm ready to talk about it with you good gentlemen.
Yeah, apparently Luc Besson, he wrote this when he was 16. It didn't get made till he was 38, and he also he wanted to do 3 movies. So I got the feeling that opening scene was condensed from like a movie that could have been one movie about those early times in 1914. So yeah, try to cram as much in as possible. But Eric Bransham, you definitely saw this in theater, right?
No, friend of the show, Chad, former host.
Hey, Chad,
recommended it to me, and he was a huge sci-fi fan back in the late 90s. So I took a look at it on home video. So being a fan of Leon the Professional, I just say Luc Besson, I'm there. And I really liked La Femme Nikita too, his earlier picture. So I was really excited to see The Fifth Element. Saw it. Pretty much declared my love for Milla Jovovich. She was my email password for 12 years. The picture was all over my locker. But I don't really... I don't recall ever like being attached to the film very much. Just this unreal being that is Milla Jovovich. After seeing this woman, I must have just went blank. I think after the first time I saw it and she came on screen, my mind just went blank. I don't even remember the movie. So yeah, that's all I remember. I haven't seen it since 1997.
Skinny Carrot Top. Never understood it. She looks like Carrot Top. I mean, in this movie, she looks like this scrawny Carrot Top. I never understood.
My hair was always very, very dark my whole entire life. And I remember in 2000, I tried to dye it blonde. It didn't come out blonde, but it came out looking exactly like Lilu's hair, like a little orange here, a little blonde there, a little completely fried and never attainable again for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Been there. Definitely. Yeah, I agree with you, Travis. She's called the perfect being in the movie several times. So clearly, she's a attractive, lovely woman, but
she's
perfection
beautiful.
is
Perfection's
a high standard.
They show these flight attendants that are probably a little more perfect physically than her. I don't know. We won't go there.
Ruby Red! So I definitely didn't see this in the theater. I watched it for the first time with my friend, Steve Guile, I believe. And we watched this movie many, many times together after that. And we would quote it to each other. And I've watched this movie many, many times over the last... I'm surprised that you guys didn't watch it more in terms of repeat watchings and viewings, because it's so easy to watch for me. And it's so quotable, and it just kind of flows. And it's very enjoyable to see as a image, I believe. I don't know why. I was always drawn back to it. Like, I got to watch this again. It's fun. Let's put it on. I'm just going to hang out and do nothing. It's kind of like a mindless movie that I would throw on, to be honest, which is, it could be a bad thing, but we'll get to that. So, yeah. However, the IMDb rating, I purposely didn't look it up because I always want to participate. Did anyone take a peek?
I believe I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll guess. I'm going to say that people love this movie, but it can't be legendary. The big question to me, frankly, Eric, is does it crack the 8? Now, and to 8 is like legendary classic status, 7 being very good. And if you're in the 7.7s, that's still an elite film, but not quite classic status. I don't think it gets to an 8. I say this is a 7.4, 7.5.
What do you say, Eric?
You're close. I think I saw it, Michael. And aren't we at 7.7, Mike? I mean,
7.7.
We're way up there.
7.7. Yep.
Sevens are wild.
Film. Yeah.
Well respected. People aren't too pissed, but it's not like in the Hall of Fame, so to speak, right?
Yeah, it's a beloved, but not, I mean, the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because I felt like people love the movie, but never fucking talk about it anymore. That's partly why I haven't watched it. It's just, I never hear people talk about it. I'll see the occasional Lilu cosplay, but that's about it. Like people just don't really talk about it. Like Eric was saying, I feel like maybe the character remained more iconic than the story itself,
Interesting. Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 71. It's a solid rating. But like Travis said, he's not hearing from those fans, but the fans gave it an 86. That's a very high score. A lot of love from the audience. A lot of freshly buttered popcorn for all of us to chew on and masticate. And who doesn't love masticating on popcorn? Am I wrong? I
dislike it strongly. It gets stuck in my teeth.
Is that funny?
You asked.
What an odd opinion. Yeah, I asked an odd question. I should get an odd opinion. Gene Siskel, rest in power, Gene. He was still alive when this movie came out. The Fifth Element has enough eye appeal for 2 good movies. Ooh, interesting. Fetching. Todd McCarthy of Variety says, a hodgepodge of elements that don't comfortably coalesce. Remember that band Coalesce, Travis? That was fun.
Very much so. Sonotronic.
Yeah, so that's one of the few negatives. Like I said, a lot of positive reviews. Looking for Desson. We should create a mockumentary, waiting for Desson Thompson.
Searching for Desson.
Searching for Desson.
Searching for Sugar Desson.
Susie. Ooh, this is a really Susie Wiko Shinada, an overblown cosmic comic book.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it is. I don't know if that's overblown, but it's very much a cosmic comic book. I mean, it's very comic booky, I thought.
That's true. And then Roger Ebert, our old pal, rest in power as well, one of the great goofy movies. A film so preposterous, I wasn't surprised to discover it was written by a teenage boy.
I wasn't surprised either. Let's just say that.
It was written by a 37-year-old man. He just started writing the story when he was 16.
Yeah, when he had 16-year-old boners, and then he still had 38-year-old boners.
Did
he
he have
combined the boners.
16-year-old fingers and legs and noses? Like what? Why are we suddenly talking about someone's boner?
Because Eric was clearly alluding to, and I believe Roger as well, to the teenage pubescent, well, pubescent, not prepubescent, a young man
who's a horny
teenager. He's a horny teenager.
If we're going to talk about Luc Besson's penis for a moment, apparently when he was casting this movie, he told the producers, this married man, by the way, who puts his wife in the movie as the diva, he tells his producers, I have to fall in love with whoever we cast as Lilu. And he searches and searches, and then finally finds Mila Jovovich and spends 4 months teaching her this fucking stupid bullshit language that he made up. And the rest is like the history, because they get married for less than 2 years. And so like that, I think this might be one of the most awkward shoots I've ever heard of, because like everyone was like working with the wife on one hand, but at the same time, like everybody saw what was clearly going on, that they were falling in love and like hooking up and stuff. Like that just sounds so cringy to be like on set.
Yeah, they had an open relationship, you know. Well, he's
maybe,
very open-minded.
You know, he broke up with her on set, his wife. So or during shooting, anyways. Maybe not on set, but during shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to hire Mila Jovovich. Let's just say that, because it would be a problem. I would not be able to look at her, talk to her. I'd be like, tell Mila to and do this or do that. I would fall in love with her immediately. She's encapsulating.
Why?
I mean,
what is it? What is it? What?
It's everything. It's everything.
Like, that's very vague.
In her eyes, it's Mila Jovovich's eyes, her eyes.
It's like,
I mean, yeah, beauty's in the eye of the
describe
beholder.
why a prime rib steak is delicious. Like,
why the sunset good? Why are boobs good?
Hey, I'm a simple man. I just like things like butter in my ass. What can I tell you? I understand that. So, by the way, the end song of this movie made
You're
me
not going to do an awkward pause
off.
there. You're going to do one at the other thing, but not there.
Dude, the end of that movie, the song that ends this movie is so 90s and like dumb. I started singing like dumb shit to it, like, yeah, it's 97 again, and we're fucking in a tube.
We didn't talk about it, but the song that ended Stir of Echoes by the band Poe was probably the worst. Most 90s bullshit to like last, like completely misplaced bullshit song to like come up on this movie ever.
Good call. That's a really good call. Yeah, I'll give you that one. All right, so this I just jumped to the end song. I know. I couldn't not bring up that end song.
We start with
it stars Bruce Willis. Also, we haven't mentioned his name yet, and Gary Oldman, who apparently did a favor to old Luke because he had financed Gary's movie, and also he had been in
fucking awesome movie.
Oh, so, I never saw that one.
Maybe we can start there, because Bruce Willis, for me, it's like John McClane light. Obviously, could there be someone else that could bring something a little more fresh to the role? So it's not just it's just Bruce Willis being John McClane. Like, I think they should have casted someone, like anyone else, Bob Downey Jr. Anybody, because it's just like
it's
John McClane dealing with this situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Bob may have been a little busy on someone's floor.
John Cusack, just anyone that would have been like,
John Cusack. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
I actually think that he's perfect for Corbin Dallas. I think he's just absolutely perfect for it, because it's a really undeveloped character, and we need to like him. And he's likable in the film, despite his sleeveless, backless mesh shirt. Thank you, John Paul Gaultier. We'll get to him. And his little wig, that little blonde wig on his head. That's nice too. But I got one real question about this movie. It's got nothing to do with any of these motherfuckers. What I want to know is, did the mutant elephant survive? Did that thing get blowed up? Where is it? Who's taking care of the little mutant elephant on Gary Oldman's desk? This is the most important question from this movie.
The one that can't suck the cherry pit out of his throat? Is that his job, to stick that trunk down there?
No, it's his job. He's a pet. He gets cuddled when he's like trying to get the thing to help him. The thing's like, I don't know. Are you playing with me? I love you too.
Yeah.
It's cute as hell. Yeah, it's cute.
I want one. I want that one.
The whole hotel, correct me if I'm wrong, blows up, and that thing's probably on it. But like, how many people are on that?
He didn't bring it with him. He keeps it at the office. He doesn't bring it on road trips.
Maybe.
Well, this is what I don't understand. Like. Okay, I got a different question. You're right. He wouldn't bring it on the road trip. But why why does he come back? Did I miss something? Why does Zorg leave and then come back
stones
to get blown up? He comes back to get the stones again?
Yeah, that's a big problem with this movie, is he got fucked again. He didn't look in the case after he already been fucked once when they didn't look in the case the first time.
He doesn't realize he didn't have the stones until the second. So he does it twice. Where you're saying he leaves with the case thinking that he's got the stones, then realize, okay, I missed that. I'm like, why are you going back to blow up?
If it happened to you once, you'd be really paranoid about it again. Like, here's the case. Are those stones in there first and foremost?
Well, then how did the diva get the stones? How did Fat Donald Duck
who
give
knows?
it to...
it's from the fucking, what do they call it? The washerman?
Hot Bib Fortuna?
No, yeah.
Bib Fortuna's wife is on location. She's a diva. Amazing.
How did Hot Bib Fortuna get the stones from Fat Daffy Duck? Fat Gold Daffy Duck.
The Mashawan. Mashawan? I don't know how you say that, but
I don't know.
What they do is they can shrink it into a tiny little pill, and then it expands in her stomach when it hits her stomach. Because her stomach acids are made of unique. This is all bullshit. I'm just making up a story because we're never told that. You're right.
It did turn out to be super convenient that she got shot in the stomach, though.
It also, hey,
good thing she was standing there. Good thing she was standing there.
A hole in her stomach.
Everybody else is taking cover. I'm going to stand on this stage for a while you guys fire weapons.
That's the thing. Like, at least have to kill you. Like, was he enjoying the show? Being like, too bad I'm going to have to dig into this woman.
You're hitting on a lot of points in this movie I want to continue to talk about. But you guys were talking about Bruce. I want to mention Bruce real quick. And I agree with Travis. I never really questioned Bruce in this role. He'd already had, he'd had a bogus go after Color of Night in 94, but then he did Pulp Fiction, which obviously kind of returned him to prominence. But the early 90s were a wash for him. And I thought it was actually impressive that he took this role, because if you had read this script and you looked at all the shit that was going on, you'd be like, oh my God, this could be a massive flop. Like, I could see someone saying, I don't want to do this movie. It looks like it could be one of the big flops of the year.
Well, that's one of the funny things about how he ended up being in this movie is that, like, they didn't even consider him necessarily. They knew they wanted a big star, but they didn't consider him because they thought, like, he would just be too expensive and they're spending all the money on the budget. But then he just kind of... But then they just kind of happen to run into each other, and so he's like, "Well, fuck it, I'll just pitch it to him and tell him, see what he thinks." And Bruce was on board from the start and said that he would take a pay cut, which he did. He just thought that it sounded fun to go shoot this movie with Jean-Paul Gaultier doing the costumes, with Luc Besson, like, be in England and France, and you can tell that the dude's having fun through this whole movie. Like, he has a different kind of attitude, I think, than he does in a lot of other movies. He generally seems to be soul crushing experience, according to Kevin Smith. This is not that. Like, he genuinely seems like he's having a good time.
Yeah, I love Bruce Willis, but like I say, it's like you know what you're going to get, and then you just get that. If you have someone who you've never seen do something like this before, maybe an Ethan Hawke, maybe
like, they're not taking chances elsewhere in this movie. There's all kinds of weird shit going on in this movie.
One more maybe would have done it for me, because it's just John McClane light.
Chris Tucker's role in this film is
we going there already?
Yes, it's hilarious. He is so funny. I don't know if you guys still have the same feeling, but he put himself out there. This is 97. He's coming off Friday, and he had a bit role, obviously, in Jackie Brown, but he is doing a very clearly, which is an effeminate, in my opinion. Like, this guy could be multi-sexual, pansexual, he's got roses. He's got red roses all around his collar, and like this, which should be a man with breasts or somebody with breasts in the way it's designed, which is really fascinating. I love all that shit. But he is funny and fascinating, quick twitch like he can do. Nobody can do what he can do, in my opinion, and I love him in this role.
He's supposed to be gender fluid, I agree. I think it was brave for him to do it. Jamie Foxx almost got the role, but the person who really almost got the role that it was supposed to go to was Prince. And Prince supposedly met with Jean-Paul Gaultier. It was like, saw the costumes and his face fell and he left the meeting, and that was it. And supposedly there was a scheduling conflict, but it really sounds like, he told Chris Tucker later that he couldn't handle those outfits. I think,
and he never would have been able to do what Chris Tucker did anyway. So
absolutely
it all worked out.
He would not have. Yeah, it worked out for the best. I don't think Jamie Foxx would have quite pulled it off either. The screaming, the shrieking that he's doing. Although there are moments where I'm like, what the fuck is this character saying? I have no idea.
I agree with you.
It always amazes me how people can talk about Jar Jar Binks being the most shrill, horrific character in the history of movies, and yet they're totally fine with Ruby Rod. If I have an interview that's like the most important interview of my entire life, I'm going to make sure that I make my phone alarm be just like Chris Tucker's dialogue or anything about Chris Tucker in this movie from now on. I'm sorry. Critics, audience didn't like it in 97. I cannot tolerate it. It's too much for me, you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. It's too much for you. By the way, Jamie Foxx did play LaWanda, which was he dressed up as a woman on Living Color, so maybe they thought it would translate to that, but you're right. It still worked out for the best. I think it's a great performance. I still think it's funny. I love Chris Tucker. I've always going to love Chris Tucker. To me, he never does anything that I like, that wasn't so great. He's a super talented guy.
Look,
And we
there is
never
one
got
thing
more enough.
There's one thing in this movie I have a big question about with Chris Tucker's character, though, and that is, if you have that cone on your head, how do you perform cunnilingus standing up? It would just be pushing into the stomach the whole time. This just wouldn't work. It's impractical.
Yes, for a man active between people's legs so very often, that cone is very impractical. It's a really practical point. I would agree.
And I saw a funny meme that said that Ruby Road is the original podcaster.
Yes, I love it, dude. I saw that too, man. And I've been preaching that ever since. This guy created podcasting, and I love it. He should get full credit.
I do have a complaint about the movie, which is that, like, typically when you're watching a movie
screaming?
like this, no. Although I would kind of feel bad for the audience that he's just screaming into the microphone for extended period of time, but the audience is clearly just the president. I mean, like, this is why in Joe Dirt they cut to the salon, where they cut to the teenage girls. Like, this is why, like, I mean, you only see the president listening. This is supposed to be like the biggest show in the world, but like you don't really get a sense that this is being, or in the galaxy, I guess. But you don't really get the sense that this is being broadcast out and like everyone's listening to this, because
the only other time you do is that woman in the hotel who's setting up Corbin's coat rack there when he needs a tuxedo. She says, "Oh, Ruby Rod, I just love his stuff." That's the only time you get an additional. Well,
and in the beginning, you have like Ruby Road like ad on Corbin's TV, like at the very beginning, so you do get a sense that he's like a celebrity. But still, like when all that's happening, to me, it just makes sense to, like, I don't know, just cut somewhere where you get a sense that like the whole world is listening to this event take place. It just seems like natural filmmaking, but
yeah,
it's
small potatoes. I assumed it. It didn't really bother me, but
it seems weird.
Gary Oldman is weird in this movie, which is great. Gary Oldman, because he talks like he's a southern plantation owner in a way, or something, or some type of businessman from the South who ends up running a conglomerate with a plastic thing on his side head for the fuck of it. I don't know what that has to do with anything. And when the blood runs down his head, is that the evil being showing that he has absolute power over anyone? And why is the evil being waiting if he can already create a hole or some type of scab in Gary Oldman's forehead?
Yeah, but there is no wound. Like, it's just bleeding out of nowhere. I actually have more questions about Mr. Shadow. Is this the most vague antagonist in film history? What is he, like the Nothing and meets Unicron? He can talk, and he can communicate with people, but like, I don't know. It's just very strange. And then when it ends, like he's 62 miles off of Earth, I'm like, that's really gonna fuck up the tides.
Don't see a lot of water either in that movie, which is also.
I don't know. I just found like what is this thing? Who is this thing? What is the motivation here? Like, what is happening here? I don't know, but we're never told.
A lava planet calls Gary Oldman at some point.
Shoot first, ask questions later, Mr. President. I don't like uninvited guests.
He only asked it for 3 times as much money. Like, this fucking lava planet can produce some currency. So in bringing up the great evil, you got to go back. We're all over the map. You got to go back to the beginning. Like what is this plot? Like the prologue. For me, right off the bat, like I checked in on this most recent view and I'm like, okay, let's see what we got here. I could dig like the production design, Egypt 1914. I'm on board. Even like Luke Perry. I'm like, all right, cool. Like we got him. And then the goofbots come in and it's like they take the thing for safe. I guess they keep it for safekeeping, but like the thing's not going to come back for 5,000 years. So like, why do they even take it when it's only going to 5,000 when it's only going to come like 200 or so years later?
It comes every 5,000 years, and that's 3.
Yeah, but it comes back in 300 years. I thought it comes back in 5,000 years.
It comes back in 5,000 years 5,000 year intervals, which is at the point when they come in 1914, it's been 4,900.
So it's coming soon.
It's in 300 years. It's been 4,700 years. When
small piece of time when a 5,000 year overall timeline. 300 years ain't nothing. So it's time to get prepped. And that guy does a great job. He keeps the key for safekeeping and he passes on the tradition. Blah blah blah. Luke Perry gets 6 billing.
Lights.
Yeah, the whole intro is it's fun enough. Be right, those aliens, the Mundashawan, are goofnorts, and that's fine. We jump ahead and we get right to the action. And Ian Holm shows up, and it's so great to see Ian Holm in this because he is one of the best parts of this movie. When he has Corbin show up with Lilu after they've had their little thing at the cab, and he realizes it's her, and he looks up really quickly. I love that. He's like, oh my God, it's really the Fifth Element. Everything my life has been waiting for to this moment is here, and he really pushes that off on the screen.
It's the Fifth Element.
Right.
There's a moment early on the screen on the movie where like the screen is shared by like John Neville, Tiny Zeus Lister, Brian James, and Ian Holm. I'm like, what a fucking mix. You get Tricky in there later. This is one of the weirdest ensembles I think in cinema history. Like it's just so all over the map, and it's cool. It works for the most part.
And it's a healthy, diverse cast, too, man. You got all kinds of people in this movie. I'm going to give a lot of credit to the casting of this time. It seems really balanced. Everybody's represented, and that means something to me in 1997 when it might not necessarily be the case, even today.
Eric?
Anyone?
Seems like an obvious point for me to check in. Okay. Tiny Zeus Lister, he's I'm a fan.
Rest in power.
Yeah, I don't want an incident. Like, how well is that? You can't give me another take here? I mean, the guy can't
terrible.
act. This is like the thing with me. It's these goofy performances, and that's like number one right off the bat.
We got a black
like,
president, though. It's awesome.
We just started this movie. Yep, great, he's black. And then like the first like line from him is, I don't want it. Guy can't act. And the rest of the movie is just fucking these goofy supporting characters. You can laugh at them. But for me, I sit back and I'm like, I can't handle it. I can't take this seriously.
I've always loved the casting, but I agree completely. He's fucking terrible in the role.
Yeah, but he would actually make sense in a way. I could see as time goes on, people who are tall and big, I could sell it. But you're right, he's not very good in it. But he's still my Tiny Zeus Lister, and this is not his Batman performance.
He's all
you can do that, but have like
all in one room.
Sorry, but like go with it. Be like, okay, shit. Tiny Zeus Lister can't act. What are we gonna do? Rewrite it on the set and have a supporting character be like, know that change the president like some buffoon because like he seems like it because he's an idiot. They just go with it.
He had to fight for Lister, so I think he was probably not wanting to change too much. But yeah, I agree. It's actually a pretty flimsy performance, and like he just basically stays in the same room. Other than the very end, he stays in one room, so it's clearly like he probably just showed up for like 3 or 4 days to sweat a lot because there's a lot of sweat coming out of Tony in this or Tom in this movie. But
things are up. They're up against it, man. Clock's ticking. The end of the world at some point. So
the goofbots. Luke Perry, like
the goofbots didn't bother me.
It's like right off the bat, I'm like, what is this?
What bothers me more is the Mangalores, or shall I say the Skrulls? I mean, they're fucking Skrulls. They talk about them being like in a diaspora across the galaxy, and they're shapeshifters. They're fucking Skrulls. Dude clearly is a Marvel fan, but I do think it's really cool that the people inside those costumes, like there's no CGI going on. Everybody had to interact with these big rubbery things, and they had to put like monitors in there so that like the people in like cameras, so the people inside those like the Mangalore things could actually see what they're doing. There's a lot of attention to detail. Supposedly there's only like 2 CG shots in the whole thing. A lot of what we think is CG is actually miniatures and stuff. And I think that's partly why the special effects really hold up very well.
The tons of miniatures and months and months set up creating all those models. And you mentioned the comic thing, though. I didn't know this, so I learned about this, which was great. The cartoonist who created Valerian, Jean-Claude Mézeret, I believe, in which they actually did the movie in 2017 that Luc Besson directed, Valerian and the Thousand Planets.
Which no one saw.
Which, yeah, I'm actually going to see it now. I'm actually curious about it because I didn't know about this background because apparently Star Wars stuff was also kind of lifted from Jean-Claude Mézeret's Valerian comics in the 70s. It's a French comic. Nobody would know about it in America, and I looked into this, and there's some legitimacy to it, but credit to Luc Besson because he went to Jean-Claude and got him paid and based some of his stuff and ideas off the concepts to fit into this film. So kudos to Luc on that.
That's cool.
And somebody who deserves to get paid should get paid. But there's a ton of fucking holes in this movie, man. And in particular, I get really bummed out with the scene on Flossed in Paradise. You already mentioned the hole in the diva which is very convenient. And then the fact that all the things that happen after that, with the part where he has to go kill the lead Mangalore, if you kill the leader, they'll all give up. He just walks out with something behind his back, and he just keeps walking towards him and then shoots the guy right in the head. Okay, cool. It's all good now. That was a weak-ass way to end that scenario, in my opinion. Dude, it really bothered me.
Worse than that even is during the fight between Lilu and the Mangalores in the opera singer's room while she's singing that whole sequence. Like, I mean, I get that this is yes, that exactly.
Jesus.
But I get that this happens a lot in movies, and maybe it's not fair to pick this out, but like more so than most movies, I really notice like she's fighting one, the others stand back and patiently wait their turn to get punched in the face. Like one by one, they just stand, like they don't even raise their arms in defense. They're just like getting punched in the face. I'm like, this is not a fight scene. This is just someone fighting rubber puppets, like beating up, like taking their anger out of puppets.
You've got you've got an auditorium and an entire hotel full of attendees for this show. Just random dude playing a ukulele, passing
Mozart's
out lace,
distant cousin,
and you got to create this whole subplot about him winning this contest, and like, who gives a fuck about this contest? Like, great, he's just there, just like ship him there, have him be random guy.
The contest serves a purpose because it makes it so that everybody knows that he's going. So it's an impetus to get the other characters involved, like the Mangalores and stuff. Like that's why everybody shows up at the gate to like take his ticket, which apparently they don't use ID in the future. But a bigger question I have is like, if you're traveling from Earth to Floston and to space travel, like the stewardesses put you to sleep for that journey, how then when you're coming back from Floston to America, does it take less than 2 hours to get from Floston to Egypt and you don't have to go to sleep?
You hit on it. You hit on my Game of Thrones. Worse than Game of Thrones manipulation in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally less than 2 hours. They go from a distant planet to Egypt in less than 2 hours.
I know. If we're running out of time, we got to get to Egypt on the ASAP. Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay, we're there now. Now what? Oh, we have one match left too. One match. Breathe. Matches in the future. There isn't like things that automatically create fire. Get the fuck out of here. You start looking at this movie more and more and more, and there really is a lot of dumb shit that you can start picking apart. And sure, like the fight scene that you mentioned, Travis, I'm sure they didn't think in the future, or maybe they should have. I don't think people think about that when they make movies, that we'll be able to slow down video even more and more. And more than ever, there's YouTube videos dedicated to it where we can see just awful fight scenes or things that are blatant mistakes because we can slow things down and look at them. And I completely agree with that. It's just, there's a lot of bad action in this movie, really bad action.
Yeah, it's true.
We got like 10 more minutes, so where else do we go with this trash?
So the character of Lilu, I haven't seen this in 20 years. I always remember, for some reason, I at least recall she being super important, and not just in the last 2 minutes, but to the film. Like, what is this character? Like, what is she doing the entire time? Why is she the supreme being? Like what is the point of this character? Blah, 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 blah. And why is she's like just hot and annoying the entire time. Sorry. But like, I just don't get it.
No. Wait a minute. I'll give her credit for when she goes up in the cab the first time, when she falls through and she meets Corbin Dallas. And
you mean like, when Corbin Dallas is just attracted to her then, and then for the entire of the film just because she's hot?
Please help.
And she's crying. I thought it would have been more effective. She's like crying and really desperate for his help. But the music that's playing underneath it, we haven't even talked about a lot of the music in this film. The music that's playing underneath that scene is like boom ba da bum ba dum ba dum da boom ba da ba ba ba. Oh, hey, please. It's so fucking weird and off base.
And you know, a bigger question I have is like, you know, Corbin's like he's like a retired major. His life is kind of in the shitter, but like it's his own now. But things have not gone great. He's only got 5 points left on his license before he loses his entire livelihood. And this woman falls in, and like he's I'm gonna evade the police. Which, by the way, like, wouldn't the police have that thing really secured? Like, if they're gonna attach the two cars to one another, like, wouldn't it be all the time that the car that's being arrested would just drive off and it just pulls that whole winch with it? Anyways, but so he decides to do that and like totals his car and like does all this stuff for this woman. I'm just like, this only makes sense because for the plot. Like there's really no, like they don't do, there's no, I'm not convinced that why would he do this? And if he did do it, why wouldn't he do it from the start? Why does he get like go through all those motions where he's like, yeah, okay, like I can't, sorry. And then like, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense that anyone would do that.
And by the way, real quick, Vin Diesel auditioning for his Groot role as Finger on the phone in this movie.
Oh, all right.
Well, I see him like helping her only for the reason why I've got a lot of issues with this reason when it comes to the misogyny of the entire picture. It's because she's hot, and then it comes the first time you see him in the movie, he just wants this perfect woman. That's all he cares about is a perfect woman. And this model shows up in his car, and he decides to help. This could be like the mass murder of the century, and he helps her just because she's gorgeous. There's this weird and frankly gross objectification of women in the entire film, and I'm not normally the objectification of women type of guy.
But she's also the lead. She's a female lead, which is cool.
Yeah,
okay, so make
fucking
her
onto something, dude.
So
Keep
make
going.
her more interesting. We've got Corbin searching for a perfect woman that will shut up, unlike his mother, and be hot, or at least someone that he's interested in. Literally every woman in the service industry is made only to serve the male gaze. I don't want to be this guy, but I have to be.
You're right.
Movie. And the supposed savior parades are around in its entirety, wearing only these strips of masking tape, and has to be put in heavy makeup immediately before she can even be told what her mission is. I have a problem with that. I mean, it's a French film, and I get it. So females are going to be regulated to pretty dim-witted toys immediately because it's made in France. But this is ridiculous, and nobody talks about this in the reviews or in anything since 1997.
No, I think you're right. And I think it's connected to the fact that you have, a significantly older director with a much young, the age gap isn't really a big deal, but there's still like a very it's just kind of weird. Like you got this married dude, and like he like takes this young actress and like holds up with her for 4 months to like to teach her this divine language. I don't know. It's a little weird to me, but also since I'm of the opinion that Mia Jovovich is a perfectly pleasant and normal looking endomorph, I guess, like, like she doesn't do anything for me. So like, so for the whole movie, for it constantly to be like, oh, I know she's so perfect. Even as a kid, I'm like, no, she ain't. She ain't no Monica Bellucci. But here's the problem I have with this movie. And again, like this is something that billions of movies have done. So like, it's maybe not that fair to single this out, but like towards the end of the movie, she does serve one function in this movie. She has one role in this movie. That's to be the fifth element. You just got to stand there and be the person when these four things turn on. All you got to do is stand there and be you. But instead she gets on Wikipedia, but just the Google image search, I guess, and decides that like humanity is not worth saving because she got to debut. Not really getting any contextualization of the history there because it's all just images. But like, then she's thrown into like some sort of catatonic panic or something, and she's not able to like, because she's so upset and depressed with the world or whatever. Like, okay, that's all very tedious, but here's the issue that I have. When like she has to be convinced to stand there and do the whole thing that she's been fighting for the whole movie, she has to be convinced to go stand there and do it. And the thing that convinces her is that romantic love exists. Did you know that without romantic love, humanity is not worth saving? Did you know this is the one reason why humankind exists? This is the only redeeming point of all of humanity. We're a complete loss except for the romantic love. I'm like, fuck. Christ, man, like enough of this shit. I don't know. It just bugged me. It just bugged the shit out of me.
Well, I didn't know that. That's news to me. Thank you.
It's important. It's important to know. Without romantic love, all life is not worth living. So that's apparently the message
of apocalypse. So what do I know? I've never been there. I've never had to like that last match. I never had to kiss a woman to save humanity. What do I know? I don't know shit.
With her permission only, though.
Eric, you're muted though. Eric, you're just talking and no one can hear you. By the way, or something happened. You blew it. You're not even muted. We can't hear. Anyways, we're getting close to the end of this, though. We're about to wrap it up. We got to come to our conclusions on does it hold up or not. Though these are great points, you guys. The last 2 points you just made are probably some of the most concrete and well-founded points that are challenges to this film and whether or not it'll hold up. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we close this out because it's fun John Paul Gaultier, we mentioned him, but we really didn't cover all the clothing and the futuristic look of everything with those those
No, the police helmets with the completely impractical like dual visors that cover your eyes so that you can't see shit.
We both watched Dredd, and I immediately thought of Dredd ripoffs and RoboCop ripoffs from those too. Thank you for your cooperation. That's total RoboCop. You think you can fool me? I know RoboCop, Luke Besson. Come on now.
Here's another weird thing happening in this movie. Like in this movie, the military are like vaguely goodish guys, but the police are like these like jackboot like henchmen, like they're just like constantly like, you know what I mean, like they're just like avoid the police. They're like the minions, right?
Yeah, the military look like they like throw parties and shit and hang out with their collars open. Yeah, we're just the military, and then the police are much more hardcore. That's
right, they're like odd. Stormtroopers, but like every character must avoid them. They're never doing anything good. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Why does that guy show up to Corbin's front door to rob him just for the fuck of it? Like, is that a daily moment in the life of Corbin Dallas? And he's got that weird hat on with the heart picture on it.
You do get that impression with that, you know, he's like taking people's guns and putting them in that. I actually really like that little moment. I think that's pretty funny when he takes the gun and puts it in that delivery.
Well, that proves you never know what people are like in movies, because it's a weird world out there. This movie has fun at times, but we've pointed out so many holes that it really starts to question it. And when you look at the greater picture and scope of what Eric and you pointed out here towards the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where's the elephant?
Everything was going so well, Eric. What happened?
No, I'm back. But like, Travis, you bring up so many great points. I mean, the movie is the fifth element, and for me, it should have so much more to do with this central character, which is Lilu. It's one of my biggest problems with the film. Like, she tags along for 2 hours. At the end, she just has to show up, and so she can open the thing. And like, it's only because Corbin's attracted to her that he loves her, in my opinion, and kisses her and makes her think that, you know, love will maybe make her willing to save the world. And if that's like what you need to do to be able to, you know, protect millions of people. But it's not enough. Like, what if Lilu looks like Ricky Lake? She seems like a sweet person, but like, do we have the same thing happening? Like, it's this physicality horseshit thing that does not sit well with me. And Lilu doesn't do enough. She should have more powers in the beginning to make her more interesting than just be hot Jar Jar that tags along for 2 hours until she has to eventually show up at this thing. I got a big problem with it.
Well, look, she's valiant, but she's vulnerable, but she's also very beautiful. The V's. That's pretty much all she does. But I'm not really. The valiance does seem to be last on the list of things that she does.
All right, let's close this out. Let's make the final ruling on this. Travis Roy, why don't you go first this week? It's your movie. Or are you supposed to go last? I don't care.
It doesn't matter, I guess. I mean,
nothing matters. I'll go first. I don't think I've gone first in a minute. So yeah, The Fifth Element. It's a movie I've watched a million times, a million times over and over again. It's an easy watch because you don't have to think too much. But when you start thinking about the film, then suddenly questions start to rise. And I guess I was pretty dormant for about 15 or so years, because when I watched it with the lens that we have created through this show, suddenly reality struck me. And boy, there's a lot of bogus shit going on in this movie. It's not as funny as it used to be to me either. You know, Bruce Willis, the more I know about him and his time is worn on in this life, Bruce Willis is less enjoyable to me, unfortunately. And whether all of it's true or not, I trust people that I've relied on for entertainment for decades that I still believe in, and he kind of just bums me out now. And I feel like he's an egomaniac, kind of the dickhead. So that bums me out. And Mia Jovovich is not somebody I've ever pined over in any way. She's a woman in this world. Good for her. She's made a life for herself. I've never seen any of the Resident Evil movies. I don't care about that stuff. So I don't have any connection to her other than Days of Confused in this movie, really. And I actually thought she was pretty decent when given opportunities peppered in to act. I thought she was actually pretty solid, to be honest with you. But as Eric really laid out, those are few and far between. So in the end, it looks bright and colorful, and I will give credit for the movie being a non-nightmarish, constantly depressing, sad futuristic world, which is one of his intentions, Luc Besson's intention. So I'll give him credit for that, making it more light. But the music doesn't match up, and a lot of things that happen are super, super convenient where it'll really bother you if you start digging into this film. And though I've enjoyed it over the years, it does not hold up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I might have to go next, Travis. Let me have you cap it off as the person who brought it to the table, and clearly it still strikes a nice chord with you. For me, sorry,
No,
grab the anvil.
It was
Grab
very
the,
obvious how you felt since the beginning. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's
Don't
no
hold
secrets.
grab the Advil, because this is a relentlessly insipid, migraine-inducing nonsense. A colossal failure of the highest order. The director apparently wrote this in high school, and it completely shows shallow characters, shallow motivations, dumb dialogue. It's like when a kid tries to make like the perfect breakfast, and it's like a bunch of like shit covered in sprinkles and ketchup and chocolate and cheese sauce. But it looks fun, but it's inedible. It needs to be thrown away immediately. I admire the overall like prodigiousness of the entire film. It is epic in scope, but that means nothing to me. The relative originality is I can admire, but that's about it. Doesn't hold up. It never did, in my opinion, man. I can't handle this movie. Never could.
So you never liked it in the first place. So this was not one that was going to hold up for you. Mike's take I find interesting. Yours I find like just because I kind of had a feeling that you didn't like it before I even chose it, but
there's been plenty of films I didn't like before that I come to like. This just isn't one of them.
Right. Yeah. So this is this film is a much beloved film and over the years, and I do think that there's a reason. I think that there is something unique here in the presentation of these different characters, different alien species, different environments. Like there's something to be said about the miniatures and the work that was put into this. I can definitely see why people would return to this over the years and find a lot to enjoy in it. I do think that as we've addressed, there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of things that maybe don't line up very nicely. But it's entertaining as hell, but it does fizzle out towards the end. That third act I've always felt is a little rough and a little rushed. At the end of the day, though, I'm going to say that just barely, I'm going to give it holds up, which was pretty much my plan in the first place, but I'm definitely glad extra now that you've both said that it doesn't hold up. Because I think that there is, I think that there's value here. I think that if you've not seen it, like I hadn't seen it in close to 20 years, then I think that you should watch it again because it's fucking bonkers. I mean, it's so weird and funny and colorful. But that being said, you can go ahead and get that Lilu tattoo covered up now. Like it's not that great a film. It's all right, but there is a reason why the cosplay is what people talk about more than, or what we see more than anything else. This movie is fun, but maybe there's a good reason. I mean, I'm glad they didn't go back for sequels because I don't know if there was that much meat left on the bone.
Well, there you have it, folks. A wild conclusion of this one. The Fifth Element's in the can. Does not hold up by a 2-1 margin. Borderline 3, but not quite. Fascinating conclusion to this one. I got to tell you, that's why we do the show. Because you never know what we're going to say at the end. Regardless of what we go through during the middle and the beginning of the show, there's always a fascinating conclusion to the Cinema 9 podcast. Thank you, Travis, for choosing this one. This is definitely one that brought out a lot of content, Travis. So it was definitely a choice worth reviewing. And I learned something about a movie that I'd seen a lot that I hadn't really considered before. And if that's not worthwhile, I don't know what is. Having said all that, next week's movie, Eric Branstrom is exhausted. You should see his face right now. If you're listening to the podcast version, he has gone through it today. Eric, do you think you're up to maybe sharing next week's movie?
I'm sorry. You guys knew I was wrought with anxiety because I knew you guys were. I had
Big feeling, you guys. We're both going to love The Fifth Element, and I'd have to, yet again, not quite as bad as the Almost Famous episode, which nearly sent me back into therapy. But I knew I would just have to be defending myself and then apologizing later. But yeah, that was rough.
We have such different takes, like different approaches to this podcast. You and I and Mike. I mean, I think me and Mike are more on the same.
I'm hoping that's why maybe people like it, but I haven't heard anything yet. But yeah, next week, man, I've had this in my back pocket for a long time, and I think it's time to pull it out. I was gonna bring out a big summer fucking blockbuster from the fucking 90s that I'm not feeling right now. I think it's time to dissect a picture from 2002 that you don't hear anything about nowadays, but you definitely heard a lot about when it came out for many reasons. It was on the indie circuit when, independent films were just starting to come back after the 90s waned. They were starting to make a big impression, even amongst some of the bigger pictures. And this was one of them. And I think it talks a lot about interconnectivity and privacy in a way that deserves to be investigated here in 2021. Mark Romanek's film 1 Hour Photo, we're going to take a look at.
It's a good call. It's been on my short list. Mike looks
Mike, you're...
My initial response is that I'm not really sure why it is. I guess I'll have to look inward and figure it out. But cool. No, I've seen it. I've definitely seen it. I think I've seen it a few times, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's one I think I only watched once, so I'm ready to. I think it's a good. Yeah, I think it's a good call.
Yeah, it's a good call. It is. Disregard my initial response. There's no.
I won't be able to. I'll be texting you in about 10 minutes.
Time to schedule that therapy session, I guess. After all.
Yeah. No shit.
Well,
bada boom, bang, boom.
Yeah,
bang.
bada boom. Well, it's a bada boom edition of the Cinema 9 Pod. Next week we'll do 1 Hour Photo. Another blonde-haired lead, which is slightly annoying, but hey, we'll do it.
Well,
what can I tell you?
What we could do instead is spend the entire episode next time just discussing Gary Oldman's Soul Patch, since we didn't discuss that at all this episode. Should we do that? You guys down?
You got off light, Gary. You got off light. I'll tell you that much. Light. Good call. All right. Well, that's it. We did a good show. Thanks, guys. Travis, good selection. It was an interesting movie to break down. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something. Cinema9pod@protonmail.com is our email, but don't email us. 5-star review. We'd love it. If you enjoyed anything from this show, pop on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star. And I think that'll close it up, right, guys? Are we good?
Multipass.
Bye-bye.
See you later.